This wolf waited 5 years in the forest for his owner. Then came the day that changed everything. In the heart of a forgotten forest, a lone wolf stood silently, every single day, for 5 long years. He wasn't lost. He wasn't wandering. He was waiting. Waiting for the only human who ever showed him kindness. The man who rescued him, raised him, and then vanished without a trace. Locals called it a legend. Rangers called it loyalty. But what happened when the man finally returned will leave you breathless. Because this isn't just a story about a wolf. It's about a promise that time couldn't break, a bond stronger than words, and a reunion that will stay with you long after the video ends. If you believe in the power of love, loyalty, and the unspoken connection between humans and animals, just watch, feel this story. And if this touched your heart, don't forget to give it a like. Leave a comment about the animals who changed your life, and subscribe to Paw Print Parables for more stories that remind us what truly matters. They met on the coldest day of the year. Snow blanketed the forest floor, and the trees stood like silent witnesses to the moment a young man named Luca stumbled across a small, shivering creature, tangled in wire. At first, Luca thought it was a wild dog, but the golden eyes staring back at him belonged to something far more majestic and misunderstood. A wolf pup, abandoned, injured, and barely breathing. Most would have walked away. Some might have called animal control. But Luca knelt beside him, spoke gently, and made a promise he didn't even realize he was making. I won't leave you. He carried the pup for miles, through snowdrifts, over frozen streams, back to his off-grid cabin at the edge of the woods. There he named him Kael. It means mighty warrior, a name the little wolf would grow into. Days turned into weeks. Kael's wounds healed, and so did Luca's heart. You see, Luca had come to the forest to escape, to forget. A recent loss had hollowed him out, and the silence of the wild was the only place he could still breathe. But Kael filled that silence, not with noise but with presence, with companionship, with eyes that seemed to say, "You're not alone anymore." They became a pair, not master and pet, not man and beast, but something deeper, like two souls, who had been broken by the world and had found a way to heal each other in the quiet of the trees. They ran through the snow, hunted small game, lay side by side beneath a starlit sky. Luca taught Kael to trust, and Kael taught Luca to hope again. But even the deepest peace is only ever temporary. One morning, just as the sun painted gold across the treetops, Luca loaded up his backpack. Supplies were running low. A trip into the nearest town, just 2 hours away, was necessary. He knelt down, ran a hand through Kael's thick fur, and whispered, "I'll be back before the sun sets." Kael watched him disappear down the path, his ears twitching with every step. That was the last time he saw Luca. A storm rolled in that afternoon, heavy, unforgiving. And then, silence. No footsteps returned. No voice called his name. Kael. He returned to the trailhead again and again. Days passed. Then weeks. When the snow melted in spring, Kael was still there, still watching the forest edge. Some said he'd gone wild. Others said he was guarding something. But the truth? Kael was holding on to a promise, even when the world said it was time to forget. Locals began to notice. A wolf that didn't run, that didn't chase, that simply waited, quiet, watchful, always in the same spot, near the twisted oak tree where Luca had always whistled for him. People tried to scare him off for their own safety. Some even fired warning shots in the air. But Kael never left. Every howl was a question, every paw print in the snow, a trail of memories. 5 years passed. 5 brutal winters. 5 scorching summers. His fur grayed, his eyes dimmed. But the fire, the hope, never left him. Wildlife rangers grew used to his presence. One ranger, Elena, left food at a distance, always watching from afar. She said, "I've studied animal behavior for 15 years, but I've never seen anything like this. This isn't instinct. This is love." And then, one morning, everything changed. It started like any other day. Mist rising through the pines, birds calling through the branches. Kael, lying in the grass, his eyes trained on the bend in the trail where hope always waited. But this time, hope arrived. A figure emerged, tired, limping, older, but unmistakably him. Luca, alive, scarred, yes, but breathing. The landslide had nearly killed him. He had spent months in a remote hospital overseas, with no way to reach home, no way to tell anyone he was alive. And when he finally did return, he had only one question in his heart. Would Kael still remember me? He didn't have to wonder long. The wolf rose, slowly, as if disbelieving his own eyes. A sound, half whimper, half growl, escaped. His throat, his legs trembled. And then, without hesitation, he ran. It wasn't graceful, it wasn't perfect. It was raw, aching, desperate. A sprint born of 5 years of longing. Luca dropped to his knees, and Kael buried his face in the chest of the man he never gave up on. There were no words, just sobs, fur soaked in tears, hands gripping fur, like it was life itself. In that moment, the forest held its breath. Even the wind seemed to hush, honoring a reunion no one thought possible. For 5 years he waited, and in the end he was right. Love, when true, is never wasted. It never forgets, and sometimes it finds its way home. After that day, the forest was never quite the same. Kael no longer sat alone beneath the twisted oak. He walked beside Luca again, his steps slower now, his body older, but his heart lighter than ever before. The two of them returned to the cabin where it all began. Though time had weathered the walls, the memories inside stood untouched. The same fireplace, the same carved wooden bowl Kael used as a pup, and though years had passed, it felt as if not a single heartbeat had been missed. Luca spent weeks restoring what nature had taken. Not just the cabin, but the spirit of the place. He contacted conservation groups, set up cameras to document the region, and most of all, he made sure that Kael never had to wait again. They slept under the stars again. They howled together at the moon. They stood silently at the edge of the trees, just like before, letting the wind speak what words never could. But time, as it does, kept moving. And one evening, as the sun bled into the horizon and the forest bathed in gold, Kael lay his head down beside the fire. Luca stroked his fur gently. And Kael, the wolf who had waited 5 years for his best friend, finally rested, not in sorrow, not in loneliness, but in peace, in loyalty fulfilled, in a promise kept. His grave lies beneath the twisted oak now, marked not by a stone but by a simple carving. He waited, and every spring, wildflowers bloom there before they do anywhere else, as if the earth itself remembers him. Luca still walks those woods, still listens for howls in the distance, still shares Kael's story with every soul willing to believe that some bonds are deeper than blood, longer than time, and stronger than even death. And just maybe, that's why you're here. Because deep down you believe it too. That animals aren't just animals, that their love is pure, their loyalty eternal, and their stories worth telling. If Kael's journey moved you, even just a little, please, like this video, leave a comment for Kael. Share your own story of the pet or animal that changed your life. Because somewhere out there, another soul is still waiting, still hoping. And sometimes, all it takes is a story to bring them home. Subscribe to Paw Print Parables for more real stories that remind us what loyalty, love, and second chances really mean. And remember, not all heroes wear capes. Some wear fur, walk on 4 legs, and wait under the trees, believing we'll return.